Hello, family. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Vicki, and you're with Grammy in the kitchen. So it's been 2 days since we made our mini Thanksgiving dinner. I do have potatoes in the freezer and mashed potato balls. And we still have almost a whole half of a chicken that I want to make a soup tomorrow. But now I need to make pie crust so I can turn some of that chicken into a pot pie also. So I went ahead and cut up 2 sticks of butter and had them sitting in the refrigerator. We're actually going to be using our Ninja blender with the dough hook to make the pie crust. So I have 2.5 cups of flour, put 1 teaspoon of salt, and our butter. I've not used the Ninja blender for pie crust, so we're doing this together. I usually do this by hand, but we're going to see if this will make more efficient time for us. I guess it needs this lid. Let's put it on the base. And I have some ice water, because you want to use cold water so that the butter doesn't melt. So I'm just going to give it a couple pulses just to break up that butter. I can still see the butter being just a little bit big in there. There's still a couple big pieces. I want to break down that butter before I add the water. I'm going to go ahead and start adding the water, not the ice, a couple tablespoons at a time. All right, we're going to start with 3. Feel like we need to scrape that edge just a bit. Not quite there. All right, that is 2 more. I don't know, family. All right, we're going to call it right there. Take it back to the island. Well, it did break the butter up, which was good because that's the part I hate doing by hand. But it just doesn't seem like it makes the dough. I don't know if I like this better. All right, let's see if we can get it put back together. I'm going to add another tablespoon of water. The way you can tell is that if you squeeze it and it stays, then you know it's ready. It's not quite doing that yet. Cooking from scratch is very time consuming, but what I feed my family is more important to me than my time. All right, starting to come together. Okay, I think we got it. Let's make it into 2 discs. Okay. So I'm going to put these in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow, that's one less thing we have to do when we make dinner. And I'm hoping with the chicken that's in the refrigerator, I'll have enough to make 2 pot pies. We can put those in the freezer, plus enough to make soup. You'll know that before this video even comes out. So this is the leftover potatoes that we set aside to make gnocchis. We got that 10-pound bag of russet potatoes for $6.49. We had mashed potatoes with gravy for the last 3 days. I have mashed potato balls in the freezer, single serve, ready to heat and eat. And then I set aside 6 cups of mashed potatoes to make gnocchi. Let's get started. So this has heavy cream, butter, salt and pepper, and garlic powder. And we're going to add 6 eggs, 1 egg per cup of mashed potatoes. And I'm just going to go in here with my hands, mix that in with the potatoes. And we're just going to add enough flour to get everything together till it forms a beautiful dough ball. We don't want it to be sticky. We want it to be a little tacky, but not sticky. And we're just going to add flour until we achieve that goal. You can do this in a stand mixer, but I like just getting my hand in here so I can actually feel it. I think we're almost there. Maybe 1 more cup. Let's see. All right, let me get my station ready to dump this bowl over and knead in all this flour that we have down here. All right, so I have that flour in my bowl that I need to incorporate into this gnocchi dough. That is a lot of gnocchi. I think we're getting there, family. And I do have some big chunks of potatoes in here. It's going to be just fine. All right, that is beautiful. Let me wash my hands, get my pans ready for that gnocchi. So I have parchment lined baking sheet. Now the last time we made gnocchi, we did leftover from Thanksgiving, and I used 2 cups of mashed potatoes, and I ended up with enough gnocchis to make 2 recipes. This time we have 6 cups of potatoes. So we got a little bit more than last time. Okay, let's start making our snake. Make sure our surface stays well floured. And I'm going to go to a 1/2 inch diameter. And if it breaks, it's okay. Put them on my baking sheet. This is going to take me a couple hours because that is a lot of dough. Oh, so this is the last piece. And I find rolling it in my hands like this a little bit at a time, I have better control. Put a little bit of flour on my parchment paper. So here's the rectangle pan, and I have 4 layers. And my pizza pan has 2 layers. I'm gonna borrow this one, so they'll be almost even. Toss a little flour on top. And now these are going into the freezer. And I'm gonna leave them in there for 24 hours so they can freeze hard. And then I'll transfer them to a Ziploc bag per recipe. I'm thinking 1.5 sheets will be perfect for a recipe. And I have 6 sheets, so that's 4 recipes of gnocchi, whether I want to make like a pasta dish with gnocchi or a soup. Perfect. Let me put these in the freezer, clean up a little bit. Well, it's been a couple days since we've been together, and we made the pie crust and the gnocchi. Life got in the way. So I just got back home from picking up my milk share and my eggs. The gnocchis have frozen solid. I still need to put those in Ziploc bags. And I have all the chicken removed from the bones. We used some of that in that soup. You saw that video on Saturday. And we're going to go ahead and use the rest of that chicken today. Part of that chicken is going to be for dinner. And part of it is going to go into the freezer as a freezer meal. But first I need to separate my heavy cream. I do this as soon as I get home with the milk. Part of this heavy cream we're going to be using today, and the rest of it we're going to put in the freezer. And this particular half gallon was 2 quarts of heavy cream and then 2 quarts milk. I think I need to go pick me up another pint-sized jar. Give me 1 second, family. All right, so let me go ahead and get all of this heavy cream separated. I'll bring you right back. And we're going to go ahead and get started on dinner tonight, plus a freezer meal, just so we have no waste of that chicken that's in the refrigerator. So I have 2 pints of heavy cream going into the freezer, and I have about 1.5 cups that we're going to use with today's meal, plus the one that's going to go in the freezer. I just took the pie crust out of the refrigerator. I need to let them sit here a little bit to thaw. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and move over to the stove and prepare the ingredients. I'm going to start off with 3 tablespoons of butter. And I'm not sure if I even told you what we're having. I'm going to be making a chicken pot pie. But instead of having a top crust, I've decided I wanted to go ahead and put mashed potato balls on top of that. The ones we're going to eat today, it's going to have the mashed potato balls. The one I'm going to put in the freezer, I'll just put the mashed potato balls on it when I'm ready to eat it, to cook it and eat it that day. So we're only going to start and finish one chicken pot pie, and the other one will go into the freezer. And what are the ingredients we're using? I have a little bit of celery left and some carrots. My homegrown and frozen green beans. Some corn. Garlic. I have a pint size of chicken broth, plus almost a whole pint of heavy cream because I want to make a creamy gravy filling for the chicken pot pie. And we're going to be using some powdered chicken broth. But first we got to make a roux. Now normally this is, let me turn this down a bit. Normally this is when I salt and pepper my roux, but because we're using that powdered chicken broth, it is kind of salty, so we're going to wait till the end. So 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of flour, just cook that for about a minute. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of our powdered chicken broth. A pint of chicken stock. And a pint of heavy cream. And this is a little bit of heavy cream I had left over when we made the mashed potatoes and the gravy for our mini Thanksgiving. It's just sitting in the refrigerator. I'm just going to go ahead and dump that in there so we don't waste it. We'll let that thicken up just a bit, and then we'll taste it for salt and pepper. Oh, it just smells so good. Doesn't need a lot of salt. So I'm just probably putting in about maybe a half a teaspoon and about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to go ahead and add all my vegetables. That was the celery, the carrots, the corn, and the green beans. And some garlic pucks. Now I'm just going to let that cook till the vegetables are just thawed a little bit and that garlic puck is broken up inside here. Then we'll make the pot pie that we're going to eat tonight. Let it cool, let the ingredients cool, and then we'll make the pot pie that's going to go into the freezer. And if you were going to be making traditional pot pie, you would add potatoes at this point and put a crust on top of your pot pie. But since we have mashed potatoes and I don't have any raw potatoes, that's why I'm decided just to make a potato topping. It's more of a chicken pot pie shepherd's. No, let's see. Chicken shepherd's pot pie. That's what we're making. I'm going to turn that down to low and just let it slowly simmer. I have 2 pie plates. I'm going to go ahead and put some butter. Just smear it all over the bottom and the sides. And we're going to do 1 crust at a time. So put a little bit of flour on our bench. Make sure the dough is well floured. And our rolling pin. Might still be a little too hard. I'm going to let that sit just a little bit longer. Alright, we're going to try again. It's been about 10 minutes. Again, you want to make sure it stays well floured. The only thing is when it's hard like this, it has a tendency of cracking. But that's okay, we can fix that. Just a little bit of water. I'm going to go ahead and get the oven preheated to 350. I do have the stovetop off. The chicken pot pie filling is done because it will finish cooking in the oven. That's not a problem. This is one of those French rolling pins that are tapered at the end. So we want to make sure we're getting our edges as well as the center. Don't worry about the broken pieces. We can fix that. I do want to fix this little hole that's in the center right here. So I'm putting a little bit of water and putting a patch right on top. And we're going to roll that in. Look at that. There's no hole. Perfect. I'm going to roll the dough on the rolling pin. Move my pie plate over and roll it out. So we're going to lift up on the sides and push it down in those corners. Let's go ahead and do some patchwork here. A little bit of water on my fingers. Push that in place. Cut off any excess right to the edge of the pie plate. And let's go ahead and fix all these empty spots right here. And this spot. And this spot. Perfect. Let me wipe my countertop. And this is the leftover chicken from that mini Thanksgiving dinner, plus the gnocchi soup. Just going to put that in there. Just mix that in. It's okay if it's cold. Let's go ahead and add it to the pie crust. And we're going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes, just so the crust is getting just slightly golden brown, and then we'll add our potatoes. I do want the filling to cool off a bit before we make the second pie to go into the freezer. But this will be a perfect time to go ahead and get started on bagging the gnocchis. So out of those 6 cups of mashed potatoes, I ended up with a total of 6 layers of gnocchis. We used 1.5 layers for the chicken gnocchi soup, but I do want to divide this into portions in the freezer so I can just grab one bag and cook with that. All right, so I got 3 bags. That's 3 more dinners of gnocchi that's going into the freezer. We used 1 recipe in that soup, so 6 cups of mashed potatoes, 6 eggs, and flour gave us 4 meals. Let's go ahead and roll out the other dough. We can always put this in the refrigerator until we're ready. As for the leftover pieces, I'm going to save in case there's some leftover pieces from this one. All right, let me get this rolled out, put it in the pie plate, and then put it in the refrigerator. And then when we're ready to make the chicken pot pie and put it in the freezer, I'll bring you right back. The second pie crust is in the refrigerator. This one has been in the oven for 10 or 12 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put our mashed potato balls right on top. Just back in the oven until the mashed potato balls have thawed and that crust is a golden brown. And that's the perfect amount of time for me to put the clean dishes away and wash those dirty dishes. The first pot pie is still in the oven. We're going to go ahead and prepare the second pot pie to go into the freezer. We're going to go ahead and scoop in the filling. This is the best part about spending some time in your kitchen. When you're preparing one meal, you can go ahead and prepare a second one to go into the freezer. And on those busy days when you're running kids around or you have to work and people in the house need to fend for themselves, you can just take this out of the freezer, put it in the refrigerator for about 24 hours, and then take it from the refrigerator and put it in the oven, 350 degrees. But when we cook this one, we're actually going to go ahead and put our potato balls right on top and cook it at the same time. In the freezer, this one goes. And in 24 hours, I'll take it out of the freezer and I'll wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the pie pan. That way, once we take it out of the freezer, we could just put it in the refrigerator and straight in the oven. I had set the timer for the oven when I first put that pot pie in there before we added the potato balls for 45 minutes. And then after 10 or 12 minutes, we add the potato balls. And we still have about 10 more minutes and then dinner will be ready. And family, it looks so good. It has been 45 minutes total. Oven off. Now this is going to be super, super hot. So we're going to leave it right here and let it cool off for about 30 minutes. The mashed potatoes have thawed and the crust is nice and golden brown. And it smells delicious. I'm going to let it sit here and cool for about 30 minutes. All the dishes are done. The only dishes we're going to have is from eating dinner. I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me in the kitchen. We've got some gnocchis in the freezer. We have dinner tonight. Plus we have dinner in freezer for a later date. Can't wait to bring you back in the kitchen and we'll make something else that's going to be delicious. And until then, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family. No, not this lid. No, it's not. Whew, I think my oven needs to be cleaned. So we're just going to hit. We're just going to go. I can't talk today.